This is the case that is preoccupying the news headlines at the moment, isn't it? Lancashire police investigating the case of missing Nicola Bulley. They made a statement yesterday about the mum of two. They said, "We have described how Nicola had some vulnerabilities at the time that she went missing, and we just wanted to expand on that a little." Sadly, it's clear from speaking to Paul and the family that Nicola had in the past suffered with some significant issues with alcohol, which were brought on by her ongoing struggles with the menopause, and that these struggles had resurfaced over recent months. Now, many have criticised this move, some people saying that it's made them feel very uncomfortable, others questioning how can this possibly help the investigation. It's a very febrile atmosphere around this case, Jane, isn't it? Do you think the police were right to reveal, deeply personal information?
Well, the missing piece of the jigsaw in this at the minute for me is whether they had the family's approval to do so.
Yeah. Funny enough, I do have a statement here, lengthy, I won't read it all out, but at the end it does say, "We have explained to Nicola's family why we have released this further information, and we would ask that their privacy is respected at this difficult time." So certainly a conversation has been had, I think.
Yeah, and I think, in a way, I feel sorry for the police in this, because people all along have been saying, why are you not treating this like a crime? If you remember, right at the very beginning, they said, we're not looking for a third party, we know something that you all don't. But they didn't say what that was, and they've had repeated criticism. Everybody go, why are you not treating this like a crime? So now they've released information to explain, and now they're having all this criticism rain down on their heads. So, I do sort of feel that it's a very complex case. I mean, I've been on a lot of crime scenes in my time, and the police work incredibly hard. They will want to find her as much as anybody else. And sometimes there are just cases that are a complete mystery. And everything about police work is as much about elimination as it is about finding evidence. And if they are being bombarded with thousands and thousands of leads from armchair detectives that go nowhere, that must be incredibly frustrating, because they have to check all of that, and it takes up a lot of police time.
I suppose it's the personal nature of this information. I mean, I saw somebody saying, this is her reputation ruined. I mean, why someone's reputation should be ruined because they may have an alcohol problem, I don't know. I thought we'd moved past that. I mean, Linda, you have been incredibly open about your struggles in the past.
Yeah. A few years ago, I had lots and lots of problems. I turned to alcohol, and I had really, really bad depression. And if I'd gone missing, I would be happy for them to say, can you look out for this woman, because she has got problems, she's got mental health problems at the moment, and that. And I don't see why this is going to tarnish her reputation at all, because all of us have different problems at different times in our lives and everything. And it's just going to make the public more aware and be looking out for her if she is out there somewhere, surely.
Exactly, that it galvanises, it makes everybody the kind of detective that you want them to be, which is to be alert, to look out for somebody who has vulnerabilities.
I mean, everyone's weighing in, though.
Years ago, when I presented Crime Watch Daily, the ill-fated Crime Watch Daily, and a woman went missing, and her son appealed to the show, and we put a picture up of her, and we said she has vulnerabilities, she had mental health issues, and within the course of that show, a member of the public driving saw her walking along the road.
Wow.
And she was found. Wow. And so it makes everybody look out for somebody that might be, walking around or vulnerable. Or so if the family don't have an issue with it, I don't have an issue.
What about you, Kelly? How do you feel about it?
I guess my concern really is trust. My personal position is trust for the police. And I think people have every right to ask those questions. I'm not talking about sort of keyboard warriors. I'm talking about those people that come from a place of an informed place, where they've done their reading, they've done their research from what's available. The kind of people that call into talk shows that want to ask questions.
That's not necessarily all that's available. It's just what you know from reading online.
I agree, from what's available, which is why they're asking questions, because maybe not everything is available to them. So I think as a member of the public, we are entitled to ask those questions, because, unfortunately...
Is it helpful, though?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, the police, historically, we can look at the evidence and some of it's positive and some of it hasn't been so positive. We can look at the Stephen Lawrence case, where there are a plethora of issues and failings by the police, whereas that family were right to ask those questions.
Yeah.
The police officer that actually solved the whole Stephen Lawrence case in the end was right to ask those questions. So asking questions is what helps to solve cases. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's right to, you know, put things on social media, you know, attacking...
Or turn up at the scene yourself.
Yeah, turn up at the scene yourself, or attacking, in this case, the partner. That's not what I'm talking about. But I do think we have a right to ask those questions. If we look at the case of David Carrick, who was a Met Police officer, or Wayne Couzens, there are so many historical cases where the police have had catastrophic failings. So we, as the public, I mean, we're paying public,
there are,
have a right to ask
there are
questions.
160,000 police officers in this country, so to besmirch them all on the basis of David Carrick and Wayne Couzens
I didn't besmirch them all.
No, but it's like you can't take two cases and say that the police have made mistakes. You know, listen. Yeah. I just think the guys on the ground, the police officers, they're going into the water. Yeah. They're putting very long hours in, and I think we have to trust them.
I didn't say that. I've not in any way said anything about this case in terms of how they are handling it. But what I am saying is we have a right to ask questions.
Yeah, and I mean, and you're absolutely right to point out those particular cases, and the police have apologised, rightly so, in all of those, and I've got these apologies in front of me right now. I suppose what I might question is whether or not that is useful when it is a live case, when an investigation is absolutely ongoing at the moment and everything is critical. I'm not convinced that everybody weighing in with the theories...
I'm so sorry. But if Doreen Lawrence hadn't asked the questions that she'd asked when her son Stephen had been murdered at that time, there's no way that the pressure would have been applied to the organisation.
She's perfectly entitled to. It's not Mrs Scroggins in Newcastle asking those questions from her kitchen when she has no involvement in the case whatsoever. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the family, absolutely, the family have every right to question an investigation at every single step of the way. I totally agree. But the whole world and its wife is weighing in on this one. And that's where I wonder how useful it is.
And as Detective Superintendent Rebecca Smith, you could see yesterday, she was very stressed about the whole thing. And she said she's been a police officer for 29 years, and she has never, ever known this level of involvement by members of the public.
But that's because of the level of failures that we've had just recently, and they are very recent, so that's why people's tensions are higher and people feel more inclined to ask questions.
Yeah. Well, the one thing we can agree on, obviously, is that we hope that there will be a positive resolution to this case for Nicola Bulley and, indeed, for her family.